Chef Tom, thank you for joining. And I know that you were very vocal about the difficulties of applying for the PPP. You're trying to keep on as many of your 300 workers as possible. And it's been devastating. What was your experience today with the PPP program?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. To be clear, I had to lay off over 400 employees. I do have a senior group that I'm still trying to keep employed at this point. The problem so far with PPP, we're ready to apply. Our bank that we use in New York, that's a reputable bank, they are telling me that they don't have the proper guidance from Treasury right now to make these loans. They're concerned that because of the lack of guidance, that it leaves them open to not being able to properly process the loans, and then possibly having legal issues around it as well. So they're still waiting for guidance. I had asked them if the guidance that they received late last night, if that helped, and they said they're not there yet. The problem I have then is I can't go to another bank that I'm currently not banking with to apply. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
That and there's also, I was listening to you. Okay.
Continue, sorry.
Okay. Also, I was listening to your previous guest, and there's a lot of problems with PPP in the way it's set up. I mean, for instance, it pays for 2 months of payroll and rent, except that I'm not going to be open in 2 months. And the date of origin is when you actually, it seems as if it's when you apply for the loan. And so if I had to hire my staff back, number one, unemployment is so generous right now, it would be very difficult for me to hire back 90% of my staff. Number two, if I did, I'm not going to be open in 2 months. So I'll be out of money before I even get open. That's one problem. The other problem, now they can fix that, and I hear there are fixes on the way. They can add additional, 2 months to that. They can actually move the date of origin back and treat it more like a line of credit. So when I start drawing down on it, that's when I have to actually bring 90% of my staff back. The other problem is that restaurants, in my case alone, I have my AP in just 4 of my restaurants, or 5 of my restaurants, is at about, $1.5 million. And so even before I open up, I'm going to have to somehow pay that. And, I just don't have the capital to do that. And then on an ongoing basis, I don't think the restaurant industry is going to get back to normal, at least until we find a vaccine. So that's at least a year and 4 months away. And so there's going to be a period of time where we're operating at maybe 40% at best, that the restaurants can't survive on that. So we're going to need significant runway to keep our businesses open, number one, to keep people employed, and number two, it's not going to help anybody if we open up and a month later we have to shut down and those jobs are all gone again.
Tom, what kind of alternative future are you planning for? Because it sounds like there are so many problems now, and I think you're right. There's no guarantee that in 2 months' time even, or even in 4 months' time, that everything is going to be back to full capacity.
There's no way it's going to be. I'm listening to reports now saying that this may ebb in the summer, and it's going to come back really bad again in the fall. It's going to move to the southern hemisphere, and it's going to come right back here in the fall. And then we're looking at 6 months of it. And so I'm not looking to, we're not going to find normalcy, number one, until we get antibody tests. We have testing to see who actually has it, actually who's had it, and then a vaccine. And so I don't see the restaurant industry getting back to normal for quite some time. And so the question is whether or not the government is going to backstop these restaurants. So we're here. And the question is how robust do you want unemployment to be and how long, or do you want to just pay people through the businesses so we can actually continue to pay people even though we're at 25% capacity?
Right, exactly. The point, and our previous guest laid it out, is that you want to keep people on the payrolls even if they're not sort of coming into work every day, so that you don't have to start from scratch, right? A 19-year business that you've built up. So, Tom, what is your advice for people that maybe aren't as hefty as you when it comes to being in their industry, one of the top in their industry? I mean, hopefully you and colleagues and other restaurateurs in the IRC will be able to sort of convince the government to do something else for that part of the industry. But what about others, Tom? What about the ones that aren't, as I say, hefty enough to do that?
Well, the IRC, the Independent Restaurant Coalition, that is about 3 weeks old right now, We managed to get some funding. We hired lobbyists who are working on our behalf. We hired a comms team. We're working on behalf of every independent restaurant. We have people in our coalition that have 22 seats. We have other restaurant groups that have 20 restaurants, but we're fighting for everybody. Whatever we manage to make work for our industry will work for the entire industry. So my suggestion to anybody out there right now who is maybe listening to this and doesn't quite understand how PPP works are several other either loans or grants that you can tap into, whether they're federal or local. Work with your accountants, work with your attorneys, work with your banks.
It sounds, Tom, like you're not. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you're not really blaming the banks yet. I mean, we've been talking about how the interest rate had to get upped in order to give them more of an incentive to get on this fast and make something for themselves, right? But you said that it's not just the banks, it's the SBA, and it's just the whole process.
Yeah, this isn't the bank. My banker, who I've had a 20-year relationship with, wants to service me, wants to service his clients. He is just not getting good information from the Treasury to make an informed decision as to how mechanics of this even works. There's so many questions that are open. For instance, again, just asking a question about the date of origin completely changes what I'm doing. If I knew, because I heard you talk about this with your previous guest, that right now we're talking about $360 billion, so that's going to run out very quickly. If I knew that there was additional money coming in behind this, then I know immediately I would try to hire back my staff. The other thing that's up in the air right now is you can use this for benefits. So the question I have, let's just say in theory, I paid 40% of my employees' benefits, right?
Yeah.
If they're employed, can I use that money to pay 100% of their medical benefits? That would be an incentive for them to get off unemployment and come work with me. Even though we're not open, that's fine. They'll come, they'll still get benefits because right now our health benefits are attached to employment. And so that would be one incentive. If we got that understanding that I can do that, it would make it would change the calculus on this. If I knew that there was an additional 2 months behind this, it would change the calculus on this. The problem right now is there's too much unknown for the employer, for the employee, and for the banks.